Good afternoon folks, welcome to Visordown. My name is Toad and today we come to you from a very sunny and bright but a little bit windy Porto Mau, where we are about to test Triumph's new Speed Triple 1200 RX. So if you watch Visordown quite a bit, you might remember that I was in Porto Mau not very long ago and I was testing the RS version of the Speed Triple 1200. And I said to you on that event that that was going to be the only version of Speed Triple that you could buy as the RR was getting discontinued. Well, it turns out I was wrong. Triumph have kept this bike under wraps. So we've flown out to Portugal. We didn't have a clue what we were riding. Nobody told us. It's all been under embargo and NDA, so we can't say anything, take pictures of it or post anything about it until that lifts. But it has been a total and utter surprise. And compared to the last Speed Triple RS launch that I was on, we have got blue skies, sunshine, a dry track, and a lot of wind. But we are here nonetheless to test it. So what exactly is the RX? Well, it is just a more extreme version of Triumph's Speed Triple 1200. So it's still got the same engine, which is the 180 horsepower and about 94 pound-foot of torque. Very torquey, very powerful, and very potent on the road and the track. There are only 1,200 of these things going to be made, and it is priced at 18,995 quid. So just 1,200 bikes are going to be put into market globally, and it's a shade under £19,000. So what do you get for your money? Well, you are getting a very different bike, dynamically, ergonomically, and visually. So the first change is the clip-on bars, and they are linked to a beautiful machined top yoke that you can see there. So the bars are 52mm further forward and they are 69mm lower than the bars on the stock Speed Twin Speed Triple 1200. So it's a much more aggressive riding position. They've carried that theme on with the pegs, which are 14.5mm higher and 25.5mm further back than they are on the stock one. So right out the box, it's got a much more aggressive riding position, much more like a traditional proper sports bike with a fairing. What else do you get? Well, you get the Akrapovic exhaust silencer, which is a titanium wrapped and carbon fiber tipped item. So that thing on its own, if you bought it from Triumph, it would set you back about 1,400 quid, and that shaves 700 gram from the weight of the bike. Overall though, the two bikes, the RS and the RX, are very much the same weight, so 199 kilograms wet with fuel, ready to ride. You get another little treat as well with this one, because while the RS has got the EC3 Öhlins electronically adjusted and semi-active suspension, this one gets the same suspension system, but rather than the manual steering damper, you get Öhlins' latest spec mechatronic steering damper. So like the objective-based suspension system that the bike has got, the steering damper is tuned hundreds of times a second. The bike is making calculations of what it's doing, whether it's accelerating, whether it's pitching, whether it's turning, and then it feeds that data into the ECU, which now controls the steering damper as well, so it can help to give you support when you need it with the steering damper, which is very, very cool. There's another interesting thing about this bike, and that is if you bought a stock Speed Triple 1200 RS and then went out and added on the titanium cam, which is about 14 or 1,500 quid, the two bikes would basically be the same sort of price, and then you're getting a few extra bits as well, almost for free if you go for the RX, including the carbon infills, the carbon fibre mudguard, and the other bits and bobs that I've already mentioned. Well, as you can see, the weather is absolutely beautiful at the minute. We're here at Porto Mau. It can change in a heartbeat. So with that in mind, I think it's about time we went and spun some laps. Right folks, so there we have it. That is our day done here at Porto Mau, and would you believe it, it stayed dry. We had damp session 1, drying session 2, and then from there on we had about 5 or 6 sessions of absolute blinding pure dry Porto Mau circuit, and the final session was on some Pirelli slicks. So it's been mega, mainly because we've just got loads of dry running. I've never had a full dry day here at Porto Mau, and today was about as close as I'm ever going to get, so I'm absolutely well and truly going to take it. And because of all those dry sessions, and because we worked our way up from the SC2, sort of the road going slick tyre if you want, and then moved on to the slicks for the last sessions, it's allowed me to really sort of get to grips with the bike in a sort of nice gradual way. There are some big changes from the RS to the RX. First and foremost, the riding position puts you in a much sportier stance, so the pegs are higher. They're not aggressive like they are on something like a CBR 1000RR Fireblade, but they are much higher and much further set back. So right out the get-go, you're in a more sort of sporty, dynamic riding position. That changes the handling dynamics of the bike quite a bit, and it is, I'm going to say, it is a much more aggressive bike to ride, especially here at Porto Mau, where we've got big sweeping fast corners with lots of undulations and lots of elevation change and lots of wheelies. It does throw some shapes. It makes the RS Speed Triple feel like a little bit of a pussycat on the track, and I know we rode the RS under very different conditions, but we did get a dry session on that bike. But yeah, this feels dynamically much more aggressive. With regards to the riding position, because you are more over the front as well, that you are loading the front a lot more, I'm not going to say that it's harder for it to wheelie, because with 180 horsepower and 94 pound-foot of torque, it just wheelies pretty much in the first 3 or 4 gears and without too much fuss or bother whatsoever. But you are weighting the front more, so that when you're in the corners and you're carrying the brake into the apex, you can rely on the front end more, because you're really pushing that front end into the tarmac, so it makes it feel like a bit more of a pointy bike. It does take a little bit of weight off the back end though, so this electronic suspension was doing its best to combat that by sort of upping the preload in the rear at corner exit, just to sort of calm the back end of the bike down. But you can still feel it slipping and sliding, especially as the sessions were going on and especially as the tyres were getting a little bit more worn. Ultimately though, it's the best handling Speed Triple that I've ever ridden. It's the most exciting Speed Triple to ride on track that I've ever ridden, and I dare say it's probably the fastest Speed Triple that I've ever ridden on track. Are there any bad bits? Right, well, the foot peg positioning has changed. I was speaking to one of Triumph's techs earlier on, and he said the foot pegs, you know, the position of them has changed, but the gear lever, I don't think the actual length of the gear lever has been adapted. He said that it should be the same distance between the lever and the foot peg, but I could not get my foot, because I've only got sort of size 7.5 feet, I couldn't get my foot cleanly under the gear lever like I could when I was here the other week riding the Speed Triple RS. So what it meant was, occasionally, especially if I was leaning off the right-hand side of the bike, going through a right-handed turn, and I wanted to upshift midway around the corner, which is something you do as you come in out of the final corner onto the back straight, onto the start-finish straight here at Porto Mau, I was sometimes not catching the lever cleanly, so I was maybe just tapping it with my toe, which would cut the power and it'd judder, but it wouldn't go up the gear, and then I'd have to have a second bite of the cherry to get the thing to go into the next gear. If you're going to be riding it on track, there's probably something you can do to adapt the gear lever, maybe get a slightly longer one if you've got smaller feet like myself. And it did lead to a couple of false neutrals during the day, which, because the gearbox is the same as it is on the RS, I'm going to say that that is down to the size of my feet and the new revised position of the foot peg. So if you're a size 8, 9 or 10 in riding boots, you're probably not going to come into that problem that I've had there at all. Overall though, it's a blinding bike. I mean, for the value, I look at this bike in terms of the value for money, and because it's, if you added the Akrapovic system to the stock Speed Triple RS and added up the total value of the bike including that, it's very, very close to the price of the RX. And with the RX, you're getting the Öhlins mechatronic steering damper, you're getting the carbon fibre bits, you're getting the carbon fibre mudguard, the carbon fibre infills, and you're getting that absolutely distinctive Triumph Factory Racing yellow colour scheme, which is just like absolutely eye-poppingly gorgeous. So on that respect, it is very good value. I mean, the way that I could sum it up really, if you want to have an abusive relationship with your Triumph Speed Triple, as in if you want to take your Triumph Speed Triple to the track and you want it to beat you up a bit and throw you about and throw some shapes and generally just act a little bit naughtily, this is the bike for you. So if your Speed Triple is a bit too tame and a bit too mild-mannered, this is the Speed Triple 1200 RX, and it should be on your shopping list. Listen folks, I've waffled on for far too long. I've been towed at Visordown. This is Porto Mau for the Speed Triple 1200 RX launch. And if you've liked that video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our latest videos. And for all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, get yourself over to visordown.com.